Hi, my name is Rachel Vasick with Human Resource Management course or seminar with the MBA program at Arkansas State University. And my program for this learning contract, or my project for this learning contract, is to develop a succession plan for the position of Executive Director for the nonprofit organization, Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association, that I work with. The Nooksack Salmon Enhancement Association, or NC as we're generally known, because of course everything goes by acronyms these days, is a small nonprofit organization. We have about 5 management level staff and about 20 people clocking in and clocking out each day. So overall, a very small nonprofit organization. I've served as the executive director there since 2008, and the reality with my position is that on a day-to-day basis, the work is kind of like drinking out of a fire hose, and a lot of things come from left and right, and it's responsiveness, and it can be very difficult to make the time to create strategies and to create plans and to do things really intentionally. So with the project that I was really excited about doing this term was to develop a succession plan for a variety of different reasons. The most important reason, I think, is that if something were to happen to me in my position, it would give the organization a roadmap to follow to replace my successor, or to cover the bases so that things didn't really fall apart during that time of transition. So ultimately, it's definitely a bigger project than I had intended, but once I realized it needed to be done, I couldn't let go of that, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity to take really everything that I learned in this particular seminar program and tie that into applicable real-world experiences in my own job. So to briefly outline the concept of the succession plan and what I ended up doing, basically it, as I said, lays out the roadmap so that the leadership in the organization could cover those basic functions in the absence of an executive director. So in our organization, the board basically functions as the oversight and the leaders for the organization, but ultimately when they have hired a competent or a strong executive director, they're really able to kind of take a back seat and let the executive director guide the path of the organization. And of course, if that goes well, then they can stay in the back seat and let the executive director drive the staff and the day-to-day work. But if there was something to change, especially suddenly without prior planning, that whole system would disintegrate rather quickly. And that's what the succession plan is about. It's ultimately to design that succession system so that staff and board leadership can cover that sustainability function in the absence of that particular leader. So the roadmap for this is really, or ultimately the goals that I followed in the succession plan are to provide the board of directors with the roadmap to keep the organization on track, to ensure that the organization stays on course to reach goals and objectives under the mission, the vision, the strategic plan, and to ultimately ensure that the organization has long-term sustainability and stability. It's also to reduce stress on the staff and the board to keep things going in the absence of that kind of one leader that folks have depended on. And then legally, it's to ensure that the board and the staff are adhering to policies and procedures, and that they're not missing something critical in the absence of that person who's held that for a long period of time. And finally, I think, and one of the most exciting things that came out of this for me is the succession plan is to identify cross-training and leadership growth opportunities for other staff so that they can be empowered to learn the different puzzle pieces that ultimately make up my job, so that can help the organization in times of an unplanned absence or even for me to be able to take a vacation, which ultimately would be a healthy thing. Other key elements are ensuring the budget is in place, managing the transition so that there's a successful switch, communication is thought out, and identifying the support that would be necessary for an interim or a permanent successor. So for this project, I developed a communication plan and gave the board, if you will, tools to be able to share the information with constituents in the community. I also developed a plan for a transition committee to work on recruitment, including posting and interview questions and the hiring process, so that really they kind of handed things sort of on a silver platter, if you will. They can, of course, customize that if the situation arises, but it means that they're not scrambling at the last minute and compromising their integrity or the quality in the process. And then I prepared an extensive list, and this is really where the project became more extensive, but I prepared a fairly extensive list of supporting documents so that everything's there together and they're not scrambling around to try to find things. So I took the leadership development plan, which is all of the different key pieces of my job, broke those out into different roles and responsibilities, and documented that. I listed out location of all key documents so that that's very transparent if something happened to me. Based on my current job description, I developed a hiring template, locations to advertise the position, interview questions, reference check questions, etc. And really compiled all of that together in one place to try to set up the board and the leadership staff to be able to hold down the fort, keep the ship steered in the right direction if there was something to happen to me that none of us were to predict. So in essence, that was my project, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Take care.